Yeah,
I think
it
they
is.
are.
Come on over. You ready? Stop. You guys ready? I appreciate everybody coming out this afternoon. We've got City Finance Director Daniel Ainsley, City Attorney Joe Landine here to discuss the results of the recently completed petition review validation process. Just a quick announcement after their comments. If you will open it up for questions. If you have any questions, go over to the microphone, introduce yourself and your organization. That'll help folks. We are streaming this live, so this will assist those folks watching from home, knowing what the question is and what organization's asking it. So again, thanks for being here, and I'll turn it over to Daniel and Joel. Thanks.
Thank you, Daryl, and good afternoon, everyone. On Friday, July 12th at approximately 4:45, we had received 266 petitions from a group that was seeking to refer the recently adopted Vision Fund ordinance revisions. Once we received those on Friday afternoon, we counted all of the individual petitions that we received, and there was 266 petitions. From that point, we made photocopies of each of the original petitions and then placed the original petitions in our vault where they remain at this point. Then on those copies, we ended up counting all of the signatures that we found, and we released via Daryl's office the preliminary number that we had 2,998 signatures. Then through the weekend, I began looking through to review to see if there were any just obvious concerns with that. There were a couple signatures that actually ended up being crossed out by, we're not sure whether it's the organizer or the signer themselves. And so once you remove all the individual signatures that were crossed out or left blank, there was 2,975. So then on Monday morning, we began the validation process of that. What that validation process included was 6 different staff members, each taking a portion of the petitions, and then number one, reviewing to make sure that the petition had been notarized, and also that the circulator had signed the document themselves, that the date of the signing of the signer coincided with the window of when the ordinance was passed, and also when the notary notarized the circulator's signature. And then lastly, but probably most importantly, was going to the Secretary of State's website to check the voter registration of the individual that had signed. Once we completed that task, which took until about Wednesday of last week, or maybe it was Thursday morning, then we took 2 different staff members who reviewed any of these signatures that were declined. And so we wanted to do a 2-step process to make sure that there would be at least 2 staff members that would agree that either they were not able to read a printed name, or that the individual truly was not registered to vote, or whatever the issue happened to be. So then those 2 staff members did not review all nearly 3,000 signatures. They just reviewed the ones that were first identified as having concerns. They completed that Friday afternoon, and at that point we also did a duplication search, and so every signer's name was included in an Excel spreadsheet where we could do a sort, and from that sort then we were able to identify when there were signers that had signed different petitions more than once, and so we removed those as well. So for various different reasons, a total of 479 signatures were invalidated. The largest number of that was 310 were invalidated because they were not registered to vote in Rapid City. There was incomplete information for the signer for 49. Many of those were that the signer maybe did not include the county where they were registered, or their address. Sometimes they just wrote their actual name. There were 32 that at least 2 staff members were not able to read the name, so those were taken out. There were 26 signatures that the circulator and the notary was on a separate sheet of paper from the actual petition itself, which is a violation of administrative rules, and so on and so forth. Once you add those all up, there were 479 that were thrown out. Several signatures were in violation of more than one statute, but still it's only counted as one. So the total number of valid signatures were 2,496 valid signatures. From that, there were a few additional steps that we could have taken to ensure that those were valid, but at that point it was aware that there were not enough valid signatures for this to proceed. The total number of signatures that would be needed is 2,707. That is determined by state statute. It's 5% of the registered voters in Rapid City as of January of this year. So again, needing 2,707, we were only at most able to identify 2,496, and so they were short of being able to do that. I think this is an important item that's brought up quite often, is that whenever an individual is looking to run for office, or if they're doing petitions to refer or initiate an item, it really is important to make sure that you do have a decent sizable cushion, because there are a lot of individuals that will sign the petitions that maybe have not registered to vote yet, or whatever that happens to be, or sometimes there are some issues with the actual circulator themselves. But by far, and this is an an example of that. By far the most common issue tends to be that the person's not registered to vote in the city that they're signing the petition in. But with that, that's the overview. I'd be happy to answer any questions if anyone might have. Or Joel, I don't know if you have anything you want to say. Sorry.
No, that's fine.
Hi, CJ Keene with South Dakota Public Broadcasting. I think there's a lot of confusion, excuse me, about the exact changes that are going to be being made to the Vision Fund. Could you just very simply explain what those changes are about to be?
Sure. The council did, or I'm sorry, I don't know if you want to explain more.
Well,
As the author.
so the ordinance had a lot of details about the procedure, and the ordinance amendment really removed a lot of the specific requirements and said that the council could basically determine what the procedure for awarding the vision funds was for each round. And it really gives the council the flexibility to determine what the procedures are for awarding the funds. And you know, a lot of the focus has been on the citizen committee. There was a requirement in the current ordinance that they do form a citizen committee. These were volunteers that were put forward by the mayor and approved by the city council. And they made recommendations to the city council about public projects. Projects they had to solicit from the public. Over the years, there have been a number of amendments. The Citizen Committee certainly was not part of the original Vision Fund process. In fact, there were two rounds of Vision funding without a Citizen Committee, and then there were several rounds with a Citizen Committee. There used to be multiple Citizen Committees. So really, if the council wants to have a Citizen Committee, they can do that, or they can choose not to. It's really going to be up to the council. For example, they did amend the ordinance and create an exception. So the Civic Center, the Summit Arena expansion did not have to go through a citizen committee process. And so there have been a number of ordinance amendments to the Vision Fund. This just kind of, in our mind, cleaned it up a little as far as the procedure has been changed a number of times over the years. So the council has a little more flexibility again on what the procedure is.
And just that way, again, total clarity, now that these signatures have been invalidated, this has been read twice and it will be enacted into ordinance, correct?
Yes.
Do we know when?
It's effective now. I mean, until when we had the petitions, if the petitions had been valid, it would have delayed the implementation of the ordinance till after the vote. But because the signatures were not valid, or there were not enough valid signatures submitted, the ordinance legally becomes effective now.
Hi, Shalom Berigi, Rapid City Journal. So my question is, since the group that submitted this, they're about 200 or so signatures off, could they just go out now and grab another 200? And what does the process look like if they do want to start over and try to get enough valid signatures?
In state statute authorizes that they produce the petition signatures 20 days after, or within 20 days of the publication of the second reading. So that deadline was July 12th. Mm-hmm. So at that point, at 5 p.m. when our office closed, that was the deadline. So once we began doing that, validating the signatures, they were short, so there's no way to really rectify that. With that being said, as the city attorney stated, the ordinance is now in effect, the amended ordinance. And with that being said, it's still up to the council as to how the next round of the Vision Fund is going to proceed.
Okay, so at this point, the only way to repeal the ordinance would be if city council did so.
Correct.
Sweet, thank you.
Hi, I'm Marnie Cook from Native Sun News Today. I wanted to ask specifically what kind of flexibility you were talking about, flexibility. So specifically, what kind of flexibility will the new ordinance provide for the council that they're not able to do now? And I'll sit down and listen.
The new ordinance authorizes the council to come up with what process they would like to proceed with each of the individual rounds of vision funding. So with this one, the mayor will be presenting a plan from that, but the council ultimately is going to pass whatever plan they want, whether that includes a citizens committee or it doesn't, or perhaps the citizens committee will review certain portions of the funding. That all is going to be determined ultimately by the council. And so there's more flexibility versus the previous ordinance required that there be a citizens committee to provide input or recommendation to the council, where the council was still the ultimate decision maker. This one simply now allows the council to come up with whatever procedure they deem would be the most beneficial for this particular round.
The one thing I will say is that the original vision ordinance and this ordinance both required, the one limitation on the council is that they are required to adopt a plan, and they are required to hold a public hearing on that plan before they approve it. So they do have to take public input into whatever plan they're going to approve.
In addition to that, I think it's important, there have been some comments that I've heard from residents as well that it allows the vision fund to be able to be used for operations. That's not the case. The new ordinance continues the requirement that it not be used for just general ongoing operations of the city. And so that's not additional flexibility that the council has. This is truly meant to be for unique projects and programs that would occur not for general operations of the city.
Hey everyone, Brad Walton with Dakota Territory News. First of all, thank you guys for taking the time today to talk about this. When you talk about general operations, just for viewers who might not know exactly what that means, kind of what are the things that you're referring to with that?
General operations, number one, are the largest segment of general operations are going to be the employees themselves. When you look at that, in addition to that, you look at the ongoing operational costs of fuel, the utility bills for buildings, for the utilities, different things like that. You start looking at potholes and regular maintenance of city facilities or parks. Any of those things need to be funded through either the general fund or in some very, very limited functions through the enterprise funds or possibly through the capital improvement fund. But the vision fund still is being set aside for projects that are specifically designed that are not the day-to-day operations of the city, whether it's our Black Hills energy bills or MDU bills or employee salaries or repaving parking lots, anything like that.
Gotcha.
Back again, Shalom Verity, Rapid City Journal. So I just wanted to confirm the number of signatures that you guys got initially. Our press release today says 2,975, and I believe you said 2,998. So I just want to make sure we have the right number.
Sure, no, absolutely, and I apologize for that. The 2,998 is what we released late on Friday, July 12th, but once we started reviewing the petitions in more detail, we did notice that there were some additional signatures that were struck out, and so the actual number of signatures was 2,975. So there were 2,975 signatures that we then began to validate afterwards.
Okay, gotcha.
Sure.
Awesome, thank you.
Sorry about that.
No, that's okay. I
confusion.
just wanted to check.
We were trying to get it out quickly on Friday and then found a few more.
Okay, gotcha. Thanks.
Any other questions? Any other closing comments, Daniel or Joel? Okay. Well, that brings us to the conclusion